Welcome guys, today we have a Hobgen guide. Yes, this is the Fire Underlord that does a tremendous burst damage, also can buff units with super attack speed, and also he does wonderful things in the fourth stage of the game, so this is a great Underlord. Firstly, let's look into his abilities, then we're looking into the builds he works well with, and also his talent tree. Hobgen's passive is that he will gain mana which is hype 1.65 per second each time a unit is on fire. His auto attack sets units on fire that deals damage to them. Now, there are talents, there's units that gives fire to enemy. Hobgen usually do fires to enemy as he strike them with his active spells. There are also units like Lina that can also set units on fire, which is quite interesting. This is why I want to go Hobgen mages. The first active spell for Hobgen is explosive. Hobgen will take a small time delay to launch a fireball at an enemy, dealing 125 damage per level. This goes up very high in terms of damage. I think this multiplies each time he levels up. By level 8, he'll be likely to be doing 1200 damage, and this can be multiplied even further. This is also into AoE, so he will hit multiple units. The downside is it will be split evenly among the units that is next to this unit, so it's a great AoE that's to set units on fire, but if it's a single target unit, he will always do a lot of damage to this unit. The first ability also have a 15 hype cost, so that means this is his most frequently used ability, and if you're going to talent tree into this one, definitely consider this because he'll be using this more frequently compared to the other ones. The second ability costs 40 hype, which is supercharged. Hobgen look into the closest unit next to him, setting them on fire and give them attack speed per level. At level 8, he will give them 140 attack speed, which is close to 2 Moonshot, which is a tier 4 item. Very scary spell, and setting them on fire is not that deadly because units cannot die from the fire. They set to 1 HP if they're burning, and also the fire don't do that much damage. So this is okay. This is more for like supercharge for the unit to gain attack speed and mana as they attack. This works greatly if Hobgen is next to a Luna, Troll Warlord, or maybe a Terrorblade, or maybe a Slug. But usually Slug is already into the battle. Often or not, Hobgen is next to a random unit, and that unit just goes berserk when he uses spell. Let's Go Crazy and Friendly Fire are two of Hobgen's ultimates at round 20. At round 20, you'll be given a choice to pick two of them. With Let's Go Crazy, Hobgen actually animationally goes into a box, comes out Super Saiyan mode with supercharged attack speed, and also continue to hit units that's not on fire. So basically he goes madness, he burns everyone. The downside is, depending on Hobgen's current attack power, which is not very high, he will not do a lot of damage, but he'll be burning units, and there's additional effects with burn units with his talent tree. But he does do a lot of attack speed though, so consider him like a weaker version of a Troll Warlord, but with a maximal Troll Warlord attack speed. With Friendly Fire, Hobgen actually goes into a bombardment. Hobgen starts to throw bombs to bombard enemies on the battlefield. The bomb will have an AoE explosion of 3×3, so the cell of target range becomes a 3×3, so 9 cells of exploding range. It is random, and their passives helps with damage, it helps with positioning, but the damage is quite high if he hits multiple targets in the same cell. Damage itself also do a lot as he levels up, so this is definitely his to-go damage spell if you look towards to doing damage with Hobgen. Before we go into the talents for Hobgen, let's consider the possible builds and test the builds for him. Hobgen is likely going to be a major damage dealer for most compositions as he will continuously to use explosive. That actually does a lot more damage and sets units on fire. Because he's constantly setting units on fire, he will gain great mana and this repeats. And also, units that are burned will constantly take damage, so Hobgen usually is on the top 2 of the damage chart for the team. So he wants to be a team that can somewhat survive, have sustainability and tankiness. He doesn't help in terms of healing, but he helps with killing units fast. Sometimes his explosive can single-handedly kill a unit if you get a talent that allows for double damage for this talent. That allows for double damage for this spell. With Hobgen, I have tried him with mages mostly. It is very powerful because his spells can be considered as magic, and mages do a lot more magic with 3 and 6 mages. On top of that, the bursty nature of Hobgen really helps with mages, because you can take units down fast and proceed with clearing up the enemy. I have also tried Hobgen with Scrappies, very scary because with Supercharge, you can also set the Supercharge unit to explode, doing damage in terms of its max HP to the enemies around him. So inventors already explode. You make them super explosive, and all of a sudden you explode everything with techies as the ace of inventors. So those are definitely great recommendations into Scrappy and inventors with Hobgen, and also into mages with him. Let's look into the talent trees for Hobgen. Around 10, you're given 4 spells. The first one is Burning Down the House. Whenever Hobgen attacks a unit on fire, the fire will spread to a random adjacent enemy, which is very strong, simply because each time a unit goes on fire, Hobgen gets additional hype mana as they go onto fire. And if he keeps attacking and he keeps spreading out to random enemies, he will be getting mana so much faster to be casting his spells much more frequently and higher tier spells. The second one is Pyrotechs. Now when a unit is on fire and dies, then their mana is given to all your units. This is not as strong as I initially thought, because this unit might be already casting his spell. Because let's say, what happens when a unit dies? Either they cast the spell or they die without casting it. Most tier 2 units will cast the spell before they die, and if that's the case, the unit won't be very high on mana, and that mana is given to all your units, and it's distributed. So that means it's shared kind of evenly. Unit have 50 mana, you have 8 units, those units will get like less than 10 mana, and that's not great. So it looks great on paper. I've tried it with mages, seems okay, but I think more casting with Hobgen is still better. This is interesting. With Supercharged, enemy attacked by Supercharged units are set on fire for 5 seconds. So this again goes with the theory of setting units on fire. But if you're already setting units randomly on fire, you don't need to try to get Supercharged and set units on fire, because you don't have Supercharge unless you have 40 hype, and that's a lot of waiting time for that. Lastly, this is quite good if you're going for a tank build or if you're looking for more tank ability, because with Fire Break, the Supercharged unit will gain 25% damage reduction. Think about this. Where would Hobgen stand? He usually stands in the backline, and the units in the backline don't take that much damage unless it's magical. It can work at times when you have a super strong Terrorblade, Ranger, maybe a Morana, or maybe a Troll Warlord. In the backline, you buff them, they're protected with the spell. On the downside is, most of the time, the unit that's super buffed will not be taking damage. So I always recommend going down, Burning Down the House, or maybe Pyrotechs over here for the first talent for round 10. The talents at round 15, let's have a look at those. The first one is Greasefire. Hobgen get 1 hype per unit hit in the blast. Initially I thought this is very strong, because he's hitting his blast. It's likely he can hit up to 4 or 9 units in a blast. So that means 4 to 9 more mana. But if you think about it, it's likely he have already 3 to 2 units that's already on fire. That's 3 mana or 4 additional mana per second. So in terms of 3 seconds, you have recovered about 9 mana. 9 hype in comparison is a little underwhelming to game with explosive. So after testing it out, I realized this is not a very good talent. Next ones we have are very strong in comparison. Implosion allows his explosive to do tremendous damage to the single target. This is actually a lot of damage. We've tested it out. Sometimes he singly one-shots a unit with the mage team, even if that unit is 2-star. So this means a lot more damage. If you're going for any bursty mode, or if you like damage, definitely consider this one. On the other hand, this is a super fancy spell that I spoke about inventors. Whenever you supercharge your unit and it dies, it explodes to do 20% of its maximum health in terms of damage. Now the downside is, usually Hobgen is not in the front, so you want to position him a little to the front to charge the knights or to charge the tank units in the front. So once he charges them up, they will explode in the front. You can also do this by having a unit in the back, prepare him to be hooked by the punch, and then supercharge the unit. Notice that it costs 40 hype to charge a unit, so this won't happen at the very start of the battle. Likely will happen after 10 seconds of battle, so Hobgen will likely have 40 mana by then he will supercharge a unit. To do this effectively, I recommend putting Hobgen a little bit to the second line of the fight. Not the first line, but the second line. and a little bit to the side, so there's a chance he buff the unit behind him and the unit in front of him. But not the units on his left, so there's nothing on the left or nothing on the right. This ability, Hot Rod. Hobgen gains attack speed each time. Hobgen will just permanently gain attack speed. The Hot Rod attack speed goes up per level, and at level 8 it's 80 attack speed. And this is a little stronger than a Moonshot. The good thing is, he will do more damage with his physical attack. He will start burning enemies. If you have the talent that sprays fire, which is pretty good, he will start burning random enemies behind him or next to them. The downside is, he doesn't have a great attack damage. So it's acceptable damage, but not that high. If you want to make him into a berserker, we can, but usually we want him for his spells. So mainly I recommend Implosion and Camus, but occasionally we can go with Hot Rod. Simply because, once you get to level 10, you have 100 attack speed, which is really good. At round 20, you have two choices. Let's Go Crazy turns Hobgen into Super Saiyan, but keep in mind, there is a casting time. He hides into a box, then he comes out and starts going to Super Saiyan mode. What I tend to find is, usually my team is pretty much all dead by then. I need him to kill units. I don't need him to fight after he becomes Super Saiyan by casting, like hiding into a box. I need him to fight now. So this spell has its potentials. If you combine it with Hot Rod, he will likely have enough attack speed as quickly as a Slug that's on steroids. You see how strong Slug is? Then Hobgen will be as strong as a Slug with maximum attack speed. The downside is, he does not excel in terms of damage. He excels in terms of his spells. So it's a small dilemma that how much damage does he need to do in this ulti mode that makes it worth it to compare to Friendly Fire. If you look at Friendly Fire, he will throw 8 bombs randomly on the battlefield with 3 times 3 cells for each of the bombs. The bomb will also scale up in level in terms of damage, and the bomb will hit AoE for half of the damage. This bomb is quite random, but once it hits, especially for spiderlings, for units that's everywhere, it's really good. This only is himself hitting. This is hitting a wide range, which is also burst damage. It does take a delay for the bombs to hit, but this is usually guaranteed damage if you're not so unfortunate to miss all your shots. In my preference, if I'm going for a particular build, unless I have great tank ability and I lack damage in terms of single target, I will not pick Let's Go Crazy. I'll always go with Friendly Fire. But at situations where I have picked into Hot Rod, I might consider for more attack speed. This is also situational because if your team have great AoE damage, you don't need Friendly Fire. On the other occasions, Friendly Fire is great because the talent tree allows you to do percentage damage to the current health of the enemy. On round 25, we have 4 choices. Afterburn is very strong actually. I've seen Afterburn, and usually this counters units that do not move. After Implosive, which is the most frequent casted spell by Hobgen, with 15 hype only, he will be hitting a cell of 9 times 9 and burn the ground if there's enemy standing on it. So if there's no enemy, the ground will not be burned. But if there's enemies on it, he will do 10 damage per level. So if you think about this, at level 8, he will do 80 times 5, 400 damage per level. This is also amplified by magical damage. So I faced a Hobgen with a mage. He shot a cannon onto my hunters. My hunters wasn't moving. So within 5 seconds, my tier 2 and tier 1 hunters all died because of Afterburn. Now this is quite good if you're facing enemies that tend to not move too much and that tend to stick together. It's not bad against knights as well for more additional damage. With the drone burn, with this particular spell, the Implosion no longer damages but instead draws 50 points of mana or hype. It sounds a little awkward because I tend to use Hobgen as a damage dealer with Implosive that does a lot of damage. This one is like a AoE anti-mage. I burn on your mana, you can't cast spells. It will be great if I'm facing a mage team and I use a drone bomb, but the downside is, do I cast faster than them? Because if I don't cast faster than them, they already cast their spells, all of a sudden this is useless because their spells are already on cooldown. So it's more situational if your enemies is giving you trouble with casting spells. And if that's the case, you could try this one, and this could be surprisingly strong. On the third one, we have Supercharge with Feedback Loop. With the Feedback Loop, the Supercharge units gain mana from damage caused by abilities. Up casting, they deal damage equal to the mana cost to the adjacent enemy. It's how should I say it? It seems to be very complicated, and I'm not sure how frequent the unit has to cast the spell to make this worth it. Because firstly, the unit has to be supercharged. Then the unit has to be randomly choose that's standing next to Hobgen, which happens to be randomly. Because sometimes he pick the tank in front of him, sometimes he pick the left one, sometimes he pick the right one. Lastly, the unit has to be casting spells. If it's a Troll Warlord, Luna, that does have passive, this will not work because they don't have spells. And if they cast spell, they need to have lower cooldown or like a great mana cost to do enemies next to them. So too many situations and too many conditions to make this useful. In comparison, this is by far one of the strongest spells with Hobgen, because you want to get mana. If your enemies attack you, you'll be getting mana. You also get armor per level. So this is a passive. With this passive, at level 8 he'll have 8 armor, which is quite a bit, close to 3 warriors, and whoever hits him will go on to fire. That means you get more mana, cast the ultimate faster, and just 2 more spells faster. So this spell will always be active, those 2 active pretty frequently, and this one is very slow to active. And this also makes Hobgen very tanky. Usually the Underlords are very tanky because they have high HP, and this can be very strong. Oh, we do have a suggestion. With the supercharge with feedback look with a 3-star Tinker can be insanely strong. That's so true actually, because they will get mana by causing damages, and this goes back further. So if we go with Hobgen with feedback loop and have a Tinker next to him, this is actually unbelievably strong, because Tinker only have 5-second cooldown, a 0.5-second cooldown. So thank you so much, IOOK, for that. On round 30, we have 4 more spells again. First one is Shockwave, where it's implosive. Each time you hit enemies, they'll be knocked and pushed away from the main target, and also be stunned for 1 second. This is when you need control, and if you run a team like Assassins, you want to get into the fray of enemies. They bulky up like warriors, hunters and knights. You use the implosive, you blow them away, the Assassins gets into them. But on the downside, this doesn't add that much towards damage, and there's some great spells to pick at round 30. The second spell is Spark. Whenever a unit is supercharged, its cooldowns are reset. This can be very powerful, but again, the unit has to be casting spells in the backline, otherwise this goes to a little wasteful. So it is again situational, but if you're going for something like a Tinker, something like a Techies, this can be very powerful. Now keep in mind, if you're going for Spark, you should ideally go for the feedback loop, because this combos quite nicely. The downside is you have to pick the right unit, and the supercharge will cost 40 hype to cast. He does cast this frequently enough, but he does have a CD. So even if you have lots of hype with a CD, he will not be casting them that frequently. It's still great though. If you planned your spells properly and have only one unit next to him, they can be very strong. But for me, in most cases, I'll be going for Keeping It Secret, or we go for Melting Point. For Keeping It Secret, while on fire, enemies are silenced. Now just imagine, you know how strong the humans are with silence? Before the patch, you're like, oh my gosh, 20-40% human silence, and it's instant silence. Hobgen's auto attack will guarantee a silence because of this passive. On top of that, if you have picked this particular spell, Mountain Armor, whoever that hits him will also be silenced. So it's like you can't touch this. If you're strong enough, and if you position Hobgen properly in front of mages, just put him in front of the entire mage team, and the mage hits him, everyone's silenced. And it doesn't say how long silence. I think it's at least 2 to 4 seconds with the human silence minimum. And oh yeah, if they are on fire for 3 seconds, it should be 3 seconds. So while on fire, they're silent for 3 seconds. And if they keep hitting Hobgen, they keep getting silenced. So you can make him an AoE silence tank, or you can get him to hit the enemy Tide Hunter, Conquer, or whoever's in front, and if he attacks them, they get silenced. So this is a definitely top pickup in the late game. But if you're lacking damage and your units do physical damage, you can go with Melting Points. Units on fire loses 0.5 armor a second until the fire is extinguished. So if he's always hitting a unit with a Berserker Goblin, with a Berserker Habit, he will be reducing the armor non-stop every second. The downside is it doesn't stack with fire, and it only does 0.5 seconds because it's on fire. So you can't technically reduce armor to like infinite, because there's only about 30 seconds in the game, so maximum reduction is only about 15 to 30 armor. It's okay for additional damage, but I always recommend going for silence over here. So this is the round 35 spell, which is the last territory for Hobgen. Firstly, we'll have Let's Go Crazy. While under the Let's Go Crazy Yabbit, the effects of Let's Go Crazy Hobgen doubles the effects of rate of all burning units. It sounds okay because he's attacking different units that turns them on fire and it doubles the effect. I have tried it before. It doesn't feel that much damage. So unfortunately, unless you loop with something else which I haven't discovered yet, it just doesn't compare to Sticky Strike. Now currently in the patch, what I've heard is Sticky Strike does more damage than what it's supposed to. So Sticky Strike almost instantly kill enemy if he lands properly. The ball adds a permanent damage over time effect that deals 5% of the unit current health. So right now it's hitting a lot more damage than was supposed to, so definitely give it a try, and it's also a free spell to pick. On top of that, this just means more damage. And Hobgen wants to do damage most of the case with his ulti if you picked Friendly Fire, and this is perfect for it. After this, we have Fire Suppression. Units that are on fire have the healing reduced by 50%. It sounds okay, but it is around 35 talent that goes into a tier 3 item like the Dasu. That's not even that strong because you have to make sure they're on fire. So in return, it's a great counter to builds that focus on Warlock, healing, and healers. But with most other builds, it's less situational. So this is optional. You want to adjust to a really strong player in the late game. You want to stop them from healing. It also works because Hobgen can set units on fire for those that are hitting him with mortal armor, or for those under his normal attack that goes into the silence. Lastly, we have Danger Close. The bomb will only land on the enemy side of the board. Keep in mind there's four rows of your board and 4 rows of the enemy board. If it only lands on the enemy board, you'll either be fighting on the enemy side or you're making sure the enemies are not fighting on your side. Otherwise, this is becoming a little counterproductive because it's not going to hit units on your side. If the enemy has pushed in, you will not be hitting them. But if you're fighting on the enemy side like assassins, this will benefit you much more because this means the bombs land 50% chance more likely onto the enemy. Overall, this Sticky Strike is a for sure go if you just want damage. It doesn't go round and gives more damage. So, coming back for the builds with Hobgen. I have tried Hobgen with many other builds as well, similar to Warriors, Brownies, Savages. Because of the ability of Supercharge, he can be very powerful. Any build needs to do attack, and any build wants the attack speed. So Hobgen can be great with almost any builds, and the key is to consider how do you want to build him. Do you want to build him for damage? Do you want to build him into attack? Or do you want to build him into a Super Saiyan that does more damage by himself? Thank you so much for watching, guys. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think about Hobgen? Do you have any crazy plans or good builds with him? And share it with us as well. And if you like my guides, I'll be making more guides for builds and tips on the current meta with Underlords and rank up builds. Thank you so much for watching, guys. To support me further, please subscribe and like on YouTube, and please subscribe and follow onto Twitch if you can. Thank you so much, everyone.